Hi friends, welcome back to Lucid Reflections Astrology Sessions. We'll have a candlelit session right now. It's like 4 a.m. but I felt inspired, so yeah, and you can probably hear the rain on my roof. It's loud. So I felt inspired to talk about Mercury, Gemini, and Uranus, Aquarius. If you've seen my prior videos on Gemini, you'll know that Mercury is the human mind, and Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So that's like where we have insight and meta thoughts, like analysis, mindfulness, where we're aware of our own mind. That's more Uranian mind, whereas Mercury mind is dealing with touching everything around it. So it's kind of like the ADD energy, like, ooh, what's that? What's that? What's that? The energy, like the Gemini mind is like very much a child. Like it gets excited by everything going on around it. It needs a lot of stimulation. And it deals with things like the mind processes that aren't necessarily analytical. So like, how much does that cost? Where do you live? Practical little pieces of information like facts, factoids. I'm just playing with this light dot. She's cool. And so Gemini, Mercury is also the trickster. So, and like my feeling of Gemini, the Gemini mind, is kind of like that feeling of when you start drifting into a dream and then your logical mind is like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense. And then you like wake up a little bit and then you drift into dream again and the dream logic starts kicking in. But it's like not logical things that would hold true in this 3D physical world. It's like opening and expanding and the mind into the more Neptunian mind, where there aren't physical boundaries holding reality together. The Neptune is Pisces, the sea, the 12th house. It's vast, expansive. It's not held, it's not contained by logic. It's the right brain, not the left brain. It's not math, it's art, you know. So as we drift into this more Neptunian realm, the Mercurial mind is still happening, but it can be this like a trickster, like I call it a dream troll, or like dream logic. And this is what I want to talk about. So Gemini, there, that's my third eye. Gemini is the twins. It's duality. Its sign is the Roman numeral 2. Because that's what we are in here. That's like our orientation. That's where we touch down into the world. And at least right now in Kali Yuga, I don't know how it is in other ages, but Kali Yuga, if you look up the Vedic ages, this is more Vedic astrology, but we go through cycles of ages, and so Kali Yuga is the shortest age, and it's the age of Kali, the age of destruction, the Iron Age. And in this age, what I'm observing, at least being alive right now, is that we're very much tied together and connected by the Gemini mind, by duality. And like if you look at the way cities are gridded, it's sort of like a projection of the human mind out onto space, which if you study cultural anthropology, you know, like the anthropology of space talks about the way that we organize space culturally. And so like at least I'd say the dominant culture, if I can speak globally right now, is very left-brained. It's very mercurial and it's very like mind dominant. We really is it logical? Does it make sense? We really give a lot of weight to the left brain. The patriarchy, the masculine part of the brain, logic, reason, like even our approach to science is very much like to kind of set aside any outliers and to go with what we can generalize, to set aside like placebo effect and stuff like that. Of course, now with Joe Dispenza, that stuff's getting more popular. But the placebo effect is, but just the, you know, the common model of science is, can we replicate this? Can we fit what happened into a logical box, and can we redo it? There, that's my third eye. Can we like sort of take the vast expanse of consciousness and get so micro and so funneled down with it that we can create an experiment that then can be replicated? To me, that is like so sophisticated, so complex, and so much in duality. It's so limiting. It's the opposite of the infinite realm of possibilities. It's taking things and it's just so Mercury dominant. It's saying we can break this down and we can make sense out of it. The Mercury aspiration is the mind trying to grasp at information, trying to understand existence, trying to understand what everything is. And I think that the height of the Mercurial mind is curiosity. It's this feeling of what is everything? What is existence? Like, who am I? You know, these questions that a lot of people stop asking at some point because we're not able to find the answer logically. And a lot of the times I find that when they come up, like I go to a lot of open mics, and when they come up through people's poetry or songs, a lot of times the audience will start laughing. Like if someone's like, what is anything? Who are we? You know, I actually even went to a satsang where I was asking the guru these questions. I was like, what is existence? And everyone started laughing. Kind of maybe, you know, for a lot of reasons. Everyone laughs for a different reason in a given moment. But a part of it, I think, is just like, it's cute, you know, it's like, oh, you're asking those questions. Like, I know those questions so well. That's the profound foundation that we live on. It's just the mystery, you know, that's the great mystery for you. And I see that though, as like the foundation that we're living on is a great mystery. And we build on top of it. We build cement, concrete, and lives. Like you look out into a city, and I remember being out in LA. I don't really go to cities much. I don't live in a city. And I remember this one time I was in LA, it was crazy. And I was on top of this building looking out at this sea. Well, I could see the ocean in the distance, and I could see this expanse of tall, you know, office buildings. And at the top of the office buildings, it said Citibank, US Bank, Bank of America. And it was like these extremely sophisticated mercurial entities. Like, what other kind of a squirrel is going to look at that and know what it is? Only humans, like only the human mind. You know, my definition maybe of what sets apart humans is our Mercury, our mind, our grasping at duality and turning it into a reality. And what happens there is inversions. If you turn everything into logic, we're separated from intuition, we're separated from Neptune, and we're separated from the higher mind. And the higher mind is also Aquarius. If you've watched any of my other videos on Gemini, you'll probably also hear me contrast it with Aquarius and the Uranian mind, which is more the meta analysis. I think I started this video saying that. Anyway, so just to like further explain this idea I'm trying to get across. So I'll also contrast Mercury with Taurus. So the Taurus mind is very simple, straightforward, practical. It says, and by Taurus mind, I mean like Mercury and Taurus. Like if you have Mercury and Taurus, so like the Taurus is just like grounded into, it's an earth sign, so it's grounded into like what it can touch, and what's like simple and real. Like, how are you feeling? This is how I'm feeling. It's very straightforward. It's not like roundabout. But the Mercury energy, like I was saying, like when you fall asleep and then it's like, but the duality is still active, and it's like there's this like trickery of the mind. The Mercury mind isn't that straightforward. It's very like a prankster. It's a trickster. It's like it's playing with facts, and it like makes these twists. It's twisted. Okay, this is what inspired me to make this video, and now I'm getting to it. I need to drink some water. I love this time of day. I call this the bliss hour before sunrise. I just always feel bliss at this time of day. Anyway, yeah, twisted. So the thing with duality is that it's like black and white, 1, 2. It's contrast. It's like we are. Like, if you look at how we project the mind out onto the world, onto the earth, like gridding cities, building office buildings, which are entirely projections of our minds. They're entirely conceptual, and they're so understandable by, like, we are all connected by Mercury in this age. It's so prominent. People walk through a city and take for granted that they understand what's going on with all the concrete. It's not like, what's going on here? It's like, oh, if you look at a map, it's all like logical, and it's like compartmentalized boxes, squares, you know, that's the geometry we project onto space because it's organized. And yeah, it's a projection of the mind onto space. And our mind does that. It conceptualizes, it organizes, it defines, it rationalizes. And the way we communicate is so heavily based on words, especially in the English language. Other languages, I think like Chinese are more, I know Chinese is like, there's lots of kinds of Chinese, but there's, it's more lyrical. So it's more activating the right brain with the melody of the words and that feeling tone, like whale language, and the feeling tone have included in the meaning. So it's not just logical, but especially the English language, the words are so abstracted. And then once you get into words, you can like do these distortion things. So in the English language right now, one of the twists is like things like the months of the year: January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. That should be 7, 8, 9, but September is the 9th month, October is the 10th month instead of the 8th month. Get what I'm saying? And there's all these weird things in the English language like that are like kind of twisted, or the Gregorian calendar, how we organize time isn't really in touch with the Taurus, with nature, with the new year. It's not celebrated with the moon or anything. In the solar calendar that is followed by North America, at least. It's like taking facts and like being like, ha ha ha, throw facts to the air and like just like reassociate everything, so that it's not really tapped into meaning. But there's something else I'm getting at with like the twisted. It's like that's something that you can do with facts. Also with the duality, like the yin and the yang, like it's as dark as it is light. Like it's so much of what you make of it. And it's the biggest twist, or like the prank of Mercury, is that the mind can grasp information at all. And so with such a heavy emphasis on thoughts and words, that we have in this culture, like, yes, it's culturally, like, first of all, like, just, you know, pause to apprehend that for a minute. Mom, I'm using the word apprehend correctly. Yeah, see, it's a word thing, but yeah, that we rely so heavily on minds, that so the thoughts going through our mind in a given moment, they seem so real and so true, and like we can grasp truths about ourselves, psychoanalysis, just by thinking about ourselves. Like through thought, can we grasp truth? Maybe relative. And that's the thing with duality, it's all relative. So relative to a given moment, relative to a certain paradigm, there are truths, but it's all relative. And then when you step back into the Uranian mind, which is just pure awareness, you can just be aware, oh, these are thoughts. So for example, earlier today I've been grappling with a situation like any human does all the time. I've been trying to make sense of it and trying to understand what's going on in this relationship with this person. And so I was thinking about it. And then all of a sudden, tears came to my eyes. I felt like I had this understanding. I journaled about it. And then by the end of the entry, I was like, well, yeah, but like, is that really true? Like, it was just like a set of feelings and thoughts that seemed really true in a given moment. And then like an hour later, my feelings and thoughts were on something else and it all shifted. And then when I looked back at that moment, it was like, well, I could hold on to that concept and like come down to that as though it's a truth. But like, really what's more true is the Uranian awareness that was just a thought and a feeling and an emotion passing through my mind in a given moment. And I can just be aware of what that felt like and just be aware of the feeling of like satisfaction or as though I realized something, and be aware of what that angle looked like and felt like. And I can be aware of stories that I've told myself for years, like conclusions that I've drawn that I repeat over and over and over unconsciously. They're just assumptions that I make about myself or about the world or about how I relate to people. But they're actually just assumptions. And so, you know, I'll put a word out for meditation because awareness of the mind, I think, is the way out of the twistedness and the tricksterness of duality, where we're depending on contrasts in order to touch the world around us. We can just watch it all change. I feel like there was more. I think I'm gonna go back to sleep. I think I may talk more about the tricksterness of the Mercury minds tomorrow in the daytime. Unless there's something else right now. Back to dream logic.